Okay, Mom. Where were you born?
I was born in Rockford, Illinois,
And when were you born?
January 17th, 1949.
And who were your parents?
Betty Jean Vassar, well, Purdy at the time, Purdy, and John Kimberly.
And when were they born?
My mother was born February 13th, 1932,
And where was she born at?
Beloit, Wisconsin.
And then your dad, where was he born? Do you know? Or do you know when he was
I
born?
am not certain.
All right. And where were you born again?
Myself,
Yeah.
Rockford, Illinois.
And where did you live when you were born?
My mom lived with her parents on Biddle Street in Beloit, Wisconsin.
Okay. And then where did you live after that? And when?
In Portage, Wisconsin, with my grandfather
And
and
when
my
was that?
grandmother.
What year was that? How old would you have been?
Well, I was in a home from the time I was born until I was 9 months. And then my grandparents went and picked me up and took me home with them.
And how long did you live there?
I'm not certain. I think till I was 2.5, 3.
And where was that at?
In Portage, Wisconsin.
So you lived in Portage, Wisconsin when you were first born?
Yeah.
After the first 9 months of being in a home?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, when did you go home with Grandma?
My mother,
Yeah, after that.
when she married Bill Schnur, I think. No, at 18 months, I guess,
Okay. So where did they live at?
with my grandparents, the Purdys.
And how long did they live there? Or how long did you live there?
Until my mom married Bill.
No, I'm saying after that, when you lived with Bill, how long did you live with Bill?
Till I was 11, 12.
Okay, and then when were your brothers born? What years? And what order?
Sam, born in 1951, and Albert,
What are their full names?
Emil William Schnur. We called him Sam, my first brother.
Uh-huh.
Second brother,
He was born when?
1951, June 2nd, 51.
Okay, and then
Albert Lee Schnur, and he was born November 7th of 53.
uh-huh.
And Edward Ellsworth Schnur, he was born December 12th of 1954.
All right.
And Leonard was born February 1st, 1956, I believe.
Okay. And then you guys all lived with Bill
And my mom, yeah.
until you turned 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened to
No,
where you
more like 12. I was about 12.
what happened to where you had to leave home?
My mom was drinking too much, and so was Bill, and they fought a lot. And anyway, he ended up going to jail for domestic violence. My mother took us to a movie theater in downtown Beloit, myself and my 4 brothers, and left us at the theater, and was supposed to pick us up at 11 o'clock at night when the movie let out, but she never showed. She was out with someone. And so my brothers and I left the theater and walked back down to South Beloit by ourselves. And when we got home, the house was locked up and no way to get in, nowhere to go. So we went to a neighbor's and asked if we could call my grandmother, Bill's mother. She was too old and crippled up to take us in, so we stayed with the neighbor. And they found my mother, and she come home the next day, or not the next day, but we stayed with the neighbor, I guess, a couple, 3 weeks. But then Mom got out of jail and was on probation.
What did she go to jail for?
Child abandonment, neglect.
Okay.
Anyway,
So you stayed there for 2 or 3 days, and
No, 2 or 3 weeks at the neighbors.
then okay, and then
And then they let her out of jail, and she was out on parole or probation, whichever. And they, her parole officer brought her to our house and us, and sat us down and explained the situation the best she could to us, being so young, and said they're gonna give her a chance to take care of us again and, you know, do right. And if she didn't, they would take us and put us all in foster care. And I told her probation officer I didn't want to stay. I wanted to go to the home because I knew she was going to go back with Bill, and I knew that the beatings and the fighting and all the same thing was going to happen again. I didn't care to be there, and I was scared of Bill. So they took me with them, and I was taken to Forest Hall Home for Girls in Rockford, Illinois, and that's where I lived.
and what year was that?
1960,
Okay, and you lived there for how long?
till I met your father in 1965.
And before that, though, you met Brian.
Yes, I did.
What year did you meet Brian?
61.
So you were there in 1960 at the home,
Mm-hmm.
and then you met Brian in 1961.
Well, October it would have been of 60.
So October of '60, you met Brian, and
Mm-hmm.
and you guys started dating.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you meet Brian?
At the Loves Park Theater in Loves Park, Illinois.
And tell me the story about that.
I was sitting down in the theater watching a movie. I believe it was Love Me Tender, Elvis Presley. And I was there with the girls' home girls and the house parents, who were a few seats behind us, and they were chaperoning us. And he come in with a couple of friends, sat a few rows behind us, and in between where we were and where the house parents were, they were sitting. And as we were watching the movie, he began throwing milk duds at me. Did not feel very good because they would kind of sting when they hit.
Right.
Well, I never gave him a look. I was just really upset that he was doing that because it didn't feel too good.
Was he with anybody else?
Yeah, a couple of guy friends.
Did you remember who their names or anything,
No,
or were
no.
they anybody important? No.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Anyway, he continued to throw that at me. Well, I went to go up to get some popcorn and a Coke, and he followed me up to the concession stand that stood behind me and kept asking me, "What's your name? What's your phone number?" And I didn't want to give it to him. I didn't have no desire to talk to him. I was upset.
How old was Brian at the time?
Brian was 14 or 15.
Okay.
And anyway, so I didn't
Did
give
it-
him an answer at that point. I went back down and sat in my seat by the girls, and I still didn't look at him. I didn't even know what he looked like.
So were you there with anybody from the home?
Oh yeah, a lot
People
of
that
the
you
girls, all the girls that I lived with.
Anybody you remember what their names were?
I know all their names. It's
What were
been a
their
long
names?
time. One was,
Well, anybody important?
they were all important. They were like my sisters. There were 6 of us. Branson Platt, Sue Nevlock, and Leah Wilson, Sally Myers, and did I say Sue Nevlock?
Yes.
Okay. Let's think for a minute.
It's okay, Ma.
I'm trying to remember.
It's all right.
I think I can't recall if there had to be another one. There was at least 6 of us. Between 6 and 9 girls there all the time.
Okay. And you guys were there?
One. Laura Miley.
Okay. And then you guys were there from the home? All the girls were from the
Mhm.
home?
Yeah.
Okay. So they lived there with you?
Mhm.
Did they go to school with you?
Yep. Well, we didn't all go to the same schools.
Okay. But you went to what school?
I went to Lincoln Junior High.
And where was Brian going?
He was going to Harlem High School.
Okay. Now continue.
No, it wouldn't have been Harlem. It would have been Hamilton Junior High at the time.
Okay. And Hamilton Junior High was where?
In McChesney Park, or North Park at the time it was known as.
Was it on the corner there of Harlem and North Second?
It was Harlem, no, on Colonial Drive
Okay.
in North Park.
Okay. So Brian went to school there, and then just continue the story of what you were saying about Brian. He
Okay, so
was
we
asking for your number,
kept asking for my number and my name.
and you went and sat back down.
Yeah, and he wouldn't quit pestering. So I thought, well, the only way I might get him to leave me alone, I gave him my phone number, the right one, but I didn't give him the right name. I told him my name was Tammy. And anyway, but he continued to flirt and keep trying to talk to me, but to no avail. And we left and went back to the home, and for like 2 weeks, every day he called, wanting to talk to Tammy. And my house parents were like, sorry, there is no Tammy that lives here. He says, I know she does. I met her at the Loves Park Theater, and she gave me this number. And my house mother says, well, there's nobody by that name that lives here. But he continued to call day after day after day, and the house mother got a little upset. And she says, what does this girl look like? Well, needless to say, because I'm only 4'9", I was the youngest girl there. I was also the shortest girl there. So when he described what I looked like, they knew right off who it was. So they said, Jan, you need to come downstairs and tell this young man to either stop calling or talk with him for a few or something, because he keeps insisting on talking to you. So we talked, and he asked me if I would go to a birthday party. And
whose birthday was it?
his.
Okay.
November 1st, after Halloween, was his birthday.
And
This
you were at the movie theater when?
We met at the movie theater. It was toward the end of October,
Okay.
not quite there, maybe a
Okay,
week
so
or two
right before his birthday.
Right,
Okay.
and he was having a birthday on November 1st. So his parents were throwing him a birthday party at his house. So anyway, he was asking me to attend the birthday party, and I said, well, I don't think you'd really want to bother with that, because the only way I can go is if you call the girls' home and you speak with the house parents, and it will have to be chaperoned. I would have to be picked up and brought home at a certain time, and there would have to, it just have to be, on the up and up and all that. So anyway, he says, oh, no problem, we'll take care of that. And I said, really? Your parents would go through all that? Because they got a call. Oh, don't worry about it. Take care of it. So I said, well, okay, that won't hurt nothing. But I didn't even know what he looked like. I did not even really look at him. So anyway, another week or so went by, and he continued to call. Well, anyway, the night of the party come, and his parents and his sister come to pick me up. I'd never met them before. He stayed home. And I remember I got dressed up, and that day I had went out and bought him a ID bracelet and had his name put on it.
That's nice.
And that was for his birthday. And anyway, so we went to his house, and his sister Renee and I were talking. We were the same age. And I told her, I says, I don't even know what he looks like. I can't tell you which guy he is. She's all, don't worry. As soon as you get in there, you'll know. I said, okay. So, got there and went into the living room, and that's where a lot of people were congregating, young teenagers.
And where was this at?
At his parents' house.
Yeah, where was that at?
621 Colonial Drive.
And that was
North
at
Park.
North Park? Okay.
So we went to the house, and they also had a patio deck off the living room that was all decorated in party lights and balloons and streamers. It was pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
Playing music, everybody dancing, having a good time. So anyway, I stood in the doorway before the living room, and all of a sudden this young man comes up to me, and I remember looking out at the floor thinking, wow, he's cute. I hope it's him. But not knowing. He's going around, and just talking to people, and he turns around and sees me, and he walks up to me. Hi. He says, let me introduce you. So he's taking me around and introducing me as his girlfriend. Oh, this is my girlfriend, Jan. I'm just looking at him kind of laughing like, right, I didn't even know what he looked like. But anyway, so I thought it was kind of funny that he was so forward and bold. But anyway, he introduced me as his girlfriend, and we're walking around. And of course we danced, and then we went on the porch and kind of getting to know each other. And there was a full moon out. I feel stupid. I was so young, and he was too. But we're out there looking at the pretty moon and the stars. And anyway, he starts talking about the moon and stars, and I started giggling and laughing at him. I said, "This only happens in the movies." He says, "No, it don't." Anyway, he gave me the ID bracelet I had given to him earlier for a birthday present. He put it on my wrist. Oh, and by the way, before I left the girls' home, they made bets with me that when I come home, I would probably be going steady with him. And I laughed at him. I said, "No, I'm not."
Had you ever went out on a date before that?
Mm-mm.
That was the first date that you ever went
Well,
on?
I had a couple guys I flirted with, but nothing like it.
Okay.
But anyway, so we sat there and talked and whatever, and he kept calling after that, and I had his ID bracelet, and wasn't long, and I had about 5 different rings on my finger, all from him, and pictures, exchanging records, letters, and that's how it stayed, off and on for the whole time, mostly on.
Until
1965 in June.
and what happened then?
He got in trouble with his father. He worked with his dad. They were doing construction work. His father owned his own company. They were up in Watertown, Wisconsin, most of the time.
And did his parents still live in the same spot at that time?
Not now, no.
No, then I'm talking.
Yeah.
So they still lived there.
Mm-hmm. In fact, the entire time we dated.
He still lived there. Okay.
So anyway, he got in trouble with his father because he took some checks, being a dumb teenager, and went out with his buddies, and I don't know what they did. I wasn't there, but it wasn't good, no doubt. But they ran away to Missouri because he forged a couple of paychecks, and he got scared because he knew his dad was going to womp the heck out of him. So he left and ran away to Missouri. I didn't know that. He never told me, and I didn't get a call.
He went to Missouri?
Mm-hmm.
And where was he originally from? Where was Brian originally from?
As far as I know, McChesney. I don't know.
Where was he
No,
from?
I'm sorry. I do know. I'm sorry. Yes, he was from Minnesota.
When did he move to Rockford? Or North Park?
I'm not certain. His dad was in the Army, and when he got out, that's when they moved there. But Jake was not Brian's real father. He married Brian's mother after Brian was born. And the brother Michael, the older brother, wasn't his either.
So that wasn't his dad.
No, but he loved him as though he was. He raised him from the time he was quite young.
And all right, so let's go back. So he went and joined the army,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't know.
He didn't join the army right away. No, he
Well, went to Missouri?
Okay, let me tell the story.
Okay, he went to Missouri. He went to Missouri.
He ran away to Missouri, but I didn't know. I was still at the home, and all of a sudden I got no phone calls, nothing. And we had already been talking about getting married when I was 16 and he was 18.
And what year was this?
Oh my
65?
65. But we were talking about getting married in May. In fact, we'd already talked to his parents about it. And anyway, so we thought we were going to be that summer. But, like I said, he ran away and I didn't know what happened, and I didn't hear for a while. I only heard that he had run away. And I thought he changed his mind about wanting to be with me. And I was very hurt and upset. And the whole time I lived at the home, all my dreams and everything I ever hoped for was built up in him. And our plans for the future. And it was gone. And all I had was the girls at the home and the girls' home. And it just wasn't, I was lonely. I missed my family, I'd had
What was going on with all of them?
my brothers were all in foster cares, and my mother had taken off again, joined a carnival, and left Bill.
When did she join the carnival?
I don't know,
Right after
because she was missing for quite a while. Even her sisters and brothers didn't know where she was.
Okay.
So I had no clue where she was for a few years.
When did you get to talk to her again?
When I ran away,
From the girls' home? When did you run away from the girls' home?
when Brian had left town and I didn't know where he was.
So that's when you left the girls' home?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go when you ran away from home for them?
I went back to Beloit to try to find my mother, who had just got
And
back.
who were
to
you living
Beloit.
with then?
No, I lived with my cousin
That's
Kathy.
not, yeah, who were you living with?
My cousin Kathy.
Yeah, okay.
Who went to court and got custody of me because I couldn't live with my mom because she was.
And that
with,
was all in 65, right?
Yeah, she had met Dick Bones, her second husband to be.
So did you end up quitting school, or did you just?
Yes.
So that's when you quit school?
After I got out of the home. I wasn't quite out. I was out, but I was in juvenile until I went to court.
And you had no idea where Brian was?
No. So anyway, and I had, spoken with my mom once or twice in all of them years and told her about him. Wanted her to meet him so badly, but they never got to meet. But anyway, she, in the meantime, had already met Gil, a man I was to marry, and was giving him a ride back and forth to work. And again, I didn't know where Brian was, didn't hear anything more, and I just figured I had to go on without him. So the night that I ran away, I went to my mother's. She was giving this guy, Gil, a ride back and forth to work in Harvard, Illinois, at Admiral Corporation. And I rode along with, met him, and we flirted and whatever. Next thing you know, he's there every day, all the time, wanting to go out with me. So I start seeing him.
And where did she live at the time?
Who? My mother?
Yeah.
On Wheeler Avenue in South Beloit with her boyfriend. But
And
I
who
was
her
living.
Do you know
I
remember
was,
who her boyfriend was?
Dick Bones.
Okay.
Anyway, I lived next a couple of houses up the street at my cousin's, that I was going down to my mother's all the time. And because I missed her, didn't know where she was for a long time. So anyway, what I didn't know is Brian had come back and had found out that I was no longer at the home and I had run away. And they told him that I was living with a cousin and I was in South Beloit. So he began looking for me and couldn't find me, and he got my mother's number out of the phone book and was calling her, but I didn't know that because she never told me. And so one day when I was at my mom's, by that time I had already been dating Gil for 3 months, something like that, and he called one day and I happened to answer the phone. And he said, "Jan," and I said, "Yeah." He says, You're at your mom's?" And I said, "Yeah, I've been here since I left the home. Where have you been?" And then he explained the situation and that he just got back after what happened. And he was looking all over for me, and he still wanted us to get married and still loved me and all of that. And I told him, "Well, I hate to have to tell you this, but I still feel the same too, but I've met someone and I'm going to have a baby." And it really broke his heart pretty bad. But he said, "Well, you can't marry him. You love me and I love you. I'll raise the baby as it's my own." And I said, "No." I said, "You know and I know, because we both were raised without our fathers and we never, either one of us, got to meet them. I don't want my baby to grow up not knowing who his dad is and not knowing him. I don't want him to go through what I went through." So
when was this?
in June, I want to say, of 65.
Okay.
So Brian said, "Well, I really don't want you to do that. I want you to marry me and let me raise the baby. I'll treat it like it was my own, and we can have more," and all of that. And I argued still, because I said, "You ought to know as much as I do how it feels to not know who your father is, and I don't want that for my baby. So he said, well, if you don't stop seeing him and let me come back and us get married, I'm going to join the Army. And I said, well, you have to do what you have to do, and I have to do what I have to do. And he says, okay, I'm going to enlist and join the Army. And I said, okay. And I told him that I would always have love for him. I did, very much. I knew right then I'd made a big mistake, but I had to think of my child and think of Gil, because it wasn't Gil's fault. When he met me, I wasn't with anybody. He didn't know about Brian until I told him, but I did tell him. I was up front about the whole thing. But anyway, we decided to get married, and he went in the Army just like he said he would. But then, after he went in the Army, and I married Gil
When did you marry Dad?
on October 23rd, 1965,
Okay. And where was that?
in Rockton, at the Old Stone Church.
Okay. And who gave you away?
My grandfather, my Grandpa Purdy.
Okay. And what do you remember about that?
I was very happy about that because I didn't know my father, and my grandfather always played the father part in my life.
And how far along pregnant were you when that?
2
happened?
months.
So you're 2 months pregnant.
Hmm.
Okay. And what else do you remember about the wedding?
Oh, we had a very beautiful wedding. My
And
mom,
where did you guys live? Did you guys have a house?
we had an apartment
Where was that?
a few blocks from my mom's.
In Beloit?
Hmm.
Okay. Where was it? Do you remember?
Off of Wheeler Avenue, Lathrop Terrace.
Do you remember the address?
Not right. Apartment number 9. I can't tell you what the main house address was, but it was up
No,
on
don't remember.
the corner
one.
of Wheeler Avenue and Lathrop Terrace.
Okay. And so you guys were living there until how
Till
long?
later, till after my son was born.
Okay. And but what else can you tell me about the wedding?
A lot of family members on both sides were there. Bill's family, my stepfather, his family was there.
Was Grandma still with Bill?
No, and he wasn't there.
Had you guys made up since what happened?
No.
Okay, but he was there.
His family was.
His family was
His
there. not him.
sisters and brothers and
So he was not there.
no.
Did you ever talk to him again after that?
Later.
Okay.
Uh,
Who else was there?
my mom's relatives, which that was my family in my book, all the Purdy's.
What about Dad's family?
Yes, Grandma Moore, his mother, attended. Twyla and Margie. I think that's, and Rosella.
Okay.
I think that's all that was there.
Where was Aunt Bonnie?
I don't know.
Did you even know her at the time?
No,
yet?
I
Oh.
hadn't. No.
Had you met any of them other?
No.
Any of the other
No,
family
that's
members
the
before?
first time that I'd met
So that was when you first met all of them.
Was at our wedding, yes.
Okay. So you did. What about when did you meet Dad's mom?
At the wedding,
Really? So you'd never met her either?
Mm-mm.
So you never met any of his family until the wedding?
right?
Huh.
And your dad had told me about them. a
What
little
did
bit
you-
here and there.
You guys go on any dates or anything special before you got married? Anything
Just
special
to the
you could?
movies or something to get something to eat, but other
I
than
mean, you had to. Something had to happen where you guys fell for each other. Did you work together?
that- oh yeah, we worked together and
Where did you work?
at Admiral where he worked.
Okay. How long after you
I got
met
hired
him?
Within a month, I was hired there.
Okay, so
I quit school and went to work at Admiral
okay, and where was Admiral again?
in Harvard, Illinois.
Okay, and how long did you guys work there?
I worked there till I was at least halfway through my pregnancy.
What
with
about
Junior.
him?
He continued to work there after Junior was born. I
Oh.
can't tell you exactly how long.
Okay, but you guys went on dates, and how old were you?
16 and a half.
What about him?
17, almost 18. He was 18 by the time we got married.
So were you Dad's first girlfriend?
No.
Okay, do you remember any of his girlfriends? Or did I tell you of
I
any?
know of 2 of them.
What were they called? Or what?
One's name was Pat Keller from Rockford,
Okay.
and the other one was Judy Beeler from Beloit, and that's who he had last dated before me.
Okay.
They were broke up by the time we met.
How long did they date?
I have no idea.
You don't have any idea? He didn't tell you?
Nope. Never really discussed
You guys never
it.
talked about it, huh?
No.
He just told you who they were and that was
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, I'm gonna stop right there.